In the quiet hours of the filmmaker's dream, where the heart and the screenplay meet, we found Kinolime.
You have the power to help make a movie get made called something like Molasses, LOL Cow. Phenomenally written script called The Way, Peking to Paris, 1907. I am so excited.
Let's make a movie together. Before you entered Kinolime, how many competitions have you entered, and what made this one different that you decided to submit?
I've entered quite a few competitions. I honestly can't tell you the number, but it's pretty popular ones. And what made Kinolime very different was the fact that I felt more involved in the process, in the voting and knowing how people are going to vote, who is going to vote. It made me feel confident knowing that I'd feel in touch with the creatives. It made it more intimate.
The competitions you entered, you felt like you had to forget about it. What kept you pushing forward with this story, with writing, even if you felt that, let's say, the odds were stacked against you, or you didn't feel you had a way into getting your movie made?
I think the most important thing is trusting myself as a writer. I read this, or maybe it was an interview with Robert Downey Jr. that if you tell one story and it doesn't get made and you can't make more, then are you really a storyteller?
That's cool.
Yeah, so I think what keeps me going and when I wrote, that's the only thing that kept me pushing. The fact that I know that I can tell stories. Even if this one time doesn't work, if I keep going, there's more mistakes that'll help me learn.
Very cool. And your pushing through got you to an option agreement with Kinolime, and obviously we entered into agreement. We want to make your movie. Have you ever optioned a screenplay before, or this is the first?
This is the first.
Huh?
This is the first feature I've ever written, and this is the first time I've ever gotten into an agreement like this. So that's also what's making me feel very grateful, because I don't know any of this and I don't know how it's supposed to go. But with you, it has been I've felt pretty comfortable and pretty confident, and I felt my work is in safe hands.
We reached out, during the competition regarding your work, and so if we see something, we definitely would love to, and we have, spoken with writers that we found, hey, you wrote something awesome, let's chat about it. You talk about how the previous competitions go in the ether. Writers spend years trying to get their work seen in Hollywood, quote unquote Hollywood. What has been your experience trying to get your screenplays noticed before in various competitions?
I feel like it's a tug of war trying to get my screenplay noticed, but also trying to keep a unique enough voice, because my screenplay, I believe it is very impactful, but it also isn't the most accessible. It's not a 4-quadrant film or anything, and it could also, for some other competitions, you get 1 reader or 2 readers, and they might not even like that genre, so they might be biased against your scripts for page 1. And you could look up any of the most successful films. There's going to be people that dislike them, singular critics or anything. So having one decider who's not even a producer, just a reader, be the first pass is difficult. So it's very nice to open the floor to multiple readers and anyone who's willing to give it a shot and have the cream rise to the top. And you'll never know. So it's much more inviting to have a competition where the first round is a community vote.
And also the prize being a finance and produced screenplay. It doesn't hurt either, huh? With kind of hitting those roadblocks as a writer, after film school, not knowing what to do with these screenplays, aside from competitions that don't really offer much career propulsion, what motivated you to keep pushing as a writer, even though you may have felt the odds or the doors were stacked against you or closed?
I kept motivated on this first story because I felt it was important, and I felt it had audience and was a topical subject to be writing about. And I wasn't discouraged, even if some writers, or some readers I should say, gave it a pass or whatever, because every major film has people that didn't like it. Finished films, some of the best films of all time, critics didn't like them, some of them. So you keep looking for your people and who's going to find your voice, and it's easier when there's more people to receive your voice.
you're there, you're working, getting your career going. Obviously, you're a super talented writer. A lot of writers spend their years trying to get their work noticed. What has been your experience with your screenplay trying to get noticed before this competition, and maybe some of the roadblocks you've had in getting your career going, not being in Hollywood?
Sure, yeah. So, I mean, over here, post-COVID, I think it's probably not as difficult to work remotely as it was, but I mean, definitely in terms of getting eyes on original content and people being interested in making it, it's very hard to do if you're not, knocking on doors on Hollywood Boulevard, more or less. I work in and around screenwriting, and I have done now for about 3 years, but very rarely kind of anything under my own name. It's nearly always kind of ghostwriting or editing other people's work and stuff like that. So this felt like the first really major opportunity for me to actually get people to read my work under my name rather than somebody else's who gets paid a lot more than me. That was really cool for me to have people reach out and say that they liked it or ask questions about it. And I have, it has opened some doors for me as well. I've been able to, additionally to kind of having it on my resume, like you say, I've been able to do some work for Kinolime, which has been awesome. So yeah, I mean, look, overall, super, super positive. Couldn't really give it any more praise than that. I mean, in terms then of getting eyes on it, I think that some kind of accolade is almost a necessity, right, in order to get people to read it. Because I mean, how many scripts do they have piled up on their desk? How many unsolicited screenplays are they receiving? I mean, it's probably too many to count. So getting someone to look at your log line is difficult enough, right? Without trying to get them to read the 110 pages or whatever it is that you've written. So having some kind of accolade like, I progressed in the Nichols, or I did, I got a 9 on the Blacklist, or I won Kinolime and they actually made my film. I think that's, a crazy sort of feather to have in your cap. So, I mean, that's really kind of why I felt so positive about the competition, was because even if it's not actually the film that's made, people now know about it, right? So, when I look online, like, well, that screenplay has more downloads since it kind of reached the top 10, and then more when it reached the top 3. So, people are interested and people are looking for it. So,
Yeah.
for exposure purposes, it's been incredible. Even though I was beaten, pipped it right at the end.
What was going through your mind when, even though you didn't make the winning screenplay, you weren't the finalist, the winner, but we reached out and said, hey, Mira, even though your movie's super expensive to make, we still want to try and figure out a way to make your movie, whether it's a different medium like a video game or comic book, that we still are so in love with story here that we still reached out and said, hey, let's try and figure this out together and try and get your story told in one form or another.
Yeah, that's been incredible. It's not something that I ever kind of explored as an avenue before, but it's definitely opened my eyes to the possibility of storytelling through different mediums. And I really appreciate that Kinolime was so interested and, willing to take, sort of a risk on it as well. Because, yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't have like 100 million lying around to kind of get this film made. So, yeah, I think it was crazy that it did as well as it did. And I wonder if there was a few kind of sweating brows in the Kinolime office when it was in the top 3. But yeah, it's been awesome, and it's been really great. As I say, it's presented me with opportunities to work with some of the guys in the Kinolime team. That's been super beneficial and kind of good for me for my career.
Thank you so much for Kinolime, and let's make a movie together. We're gonna finance the movie and we're gonna produce it.
Yep, let's make a movie together.
All with your help.
Kinolime.